about Rogue, I don't know. I feel like they are a good team, but I never like. Yeah, I just don't talk about Rogue. I think they are a good team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can't put it into words, but there's something that you don't like, or like you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay,
just don't go into it. I don't have like any hard feelings. You know, I like it's nothing personal. It's just that when I play against Rogue, it's just I feel like I will no matter what win. And maybe that's, you know, based on scrims or based on like my experiences on stage. I just never feel threatened by this team.
The teams that are now at the top being Rogue and Mad Lions, how much staying power do you think those two teams have at the top?
I think Mad definitely has a good staying power there. I have a bit more doubts on Rogue. But obviously those two teams are playing really well.
What do you think is so special and so good about Mad Lions that makes you give them more credit? Of course, they just beat you, but aside from that.
If I would contrast them to Rogue, I do believe they have the same fundamentals, but Mad Lions as a team will have more aggressiveness and better ways to find other edges that Rogue wouldn't find. So, of course, I'm talking very black and white here, but I think Rogue has one defined playstyle. They follow that playstyle. If you can't punish them for it, they win. And so, I mean, in the past, we always said Rogue is the mini Origin. I don't think much changed in that regard. Of course, I can always be proven wrong, right? But yeah, I just don't see Rogue adapting in best of 5 well, or being able to actually pressure the better teams if we improve. Like, I say all of this knowing the ceiling of us, Fnatic, Origin, and Mad Lions being higher.
9 wins, first place, statistically the best teams in the league. They've beaten Origin, they've destroyed Fnatic, and still they are not regarded as one of the best. The story about Rogue, the forgotten first place team. That is what we're about to discuss. And I'm going to ask Ender and Vedius, why are Rogue not as frequently in the headlines or the discussions in as much of a positive light as the Mad Lions are?
Yeah, I think that it's a really fascinating conversation because we love to talk about the things that Rogue do right. And I feel like that there's still some sentiment from fans that are like, yeah, Rogue is a good team. But they're never quite in that conversation for like people that will win the split, people that will be strong contenders at Worlds, even pro teams, as we just heard, are saying like, we actually expect them to fall. And I think one of the big reasons for it is, as what they've been saying, they seem to have a defined play style that to many seem repetitive, seem easy to exploit, yet no one in our league outside of the Mad Lions can actually exploit it right now.
And I think it's naturally a very consistent play style. And we've seen this from them in the past where they will beat all the teams underneath them in the standings and they'll struggle against the top teams. And what I've seen from them so far this split is, I think some of their players have individually leveled up. They're playing very good on a personal level. But at the same time, our top teams have certainly leveled down. So this team, my thought is, can they make it in the playoffs? Can they go deep there? Because when teams level up around them, will they still be able to compete? And based off the performance I've been seeing today, I think that answer is still yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the specific players. We know that the meta suits them. We've just heard from a number of personalities and other teams especially saying there's ways to beat Rogue. Statistically speaking, the best player in our league right now is Larssen. This guy is popping off. He's one of the main carries. Vedius, what else is great about this guy? And also, why are maybe some of the fans not praising him as much as maybe we are?
Well, I think that a lot of the fans, I think a lot of people acknowledge Larssen as being one of the best mid laners in Europe for sure. And for me, I think that he's really made himself stand out as a consistent carry performer. Last split, he was someone that you could often count on when the chips were down and was someone that you could have faith in to be a good player. But this split, I feel like every single game, he's putting out good numbers. He is dominating the laning phase, he is having impact in team fights, and I think that specifically is one of the most impactful things. I think I would say that he is the best team-fighting mid laner in our league right now.
That's the distinction. He's an insane laner and an insane team fighter. Those two combinations have seen the level up here. Look, I mean, the stats speak for themselves. This player is phenomenal. He's always coming out on top of the laning phase, even if he's not straight up solo killing you. And his positioning and DPS in team fights is unmatched in the mid lane position.
And it's funny because when you look at those stats, he was second, fifth, third.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're still like, okay, so statistical last split, he wasn't even that far behind the top mid laners that we had in Europe.
Perks. He's not even a mid laner anymore.
He's only just gotten better since then.
Gentlemen, can they stay at the top? They are tied with Mad Lions if they beat Misfits. Now Mad Lions win next to 10-2. I mean, Rogue play G2 tomorrow. Vedius, can they stay at the top?
I think if the meta stays the way that it is, there's no reason why they can't. The things they have to be careful of are the curveballs, the things like Mad Lions can throw it their way, and maybe a Fiddlesticks jungle could catch them by surprise. But as long as they're prepared for the curveballs.
And very last thoughts.
Very last thoughts is that I think when you look stylistically, a Mad Lions will beat Rogue, and a leveled up Fnatic or G2 could also beat Rogue.
Nah,
but those teams,
I don't believe in them anymore.
Hear me out. Hear me out. Those teams.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear. The new kids on the block are staying at the top. Let's see if Rogue can keep it up as they take on Misfits Gaming in just a moment. I mean, that's what I wanted. It was that I wanted. That's what I was expecting.
Frankly, I'm glad we went back to Ender for one last fart sound effect before we got to the caster desk.
No.
Why not? Of course, the Misfits Gaming versus Rogue, as you heard from the desk, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to talking about Rogue. And on the opposite side for Misfits, well, they didn't mention them a lot, and that's because it's a pretty heartbreaking week for Misfits last week. They once again kind of put their foot on the finish line Mario Kart style.
No, it was there.
It was there. They kind of crossed it, but by like 0.01 seconds, Fnatic just slipped past them, the triple red shell to slow them down.
I do kind of like the conversation that Quickshot was teeing up, though, and that Ender was kind of skirting around. Is stylistically, teams that are fast, the Mad Lions, the Fnatics, the G2s, these are the teams that usually have Rogue's number. The only two losses that Rogue have this split are to G2 and Mad. And when you look at both those compositions, they were very fast, Snowball, Kalista, Wukong, Senna, these types of comps. So Misfits stylistically should have potential to be able to match Rogue. When Misfits first faced Rogue, they went all scaling, and they went for the Azir, they went for the Ezreal. I want them to grab the Kalista, to put that in Kabe's hands and say, let's not try to scale with these guys, because if you play Rogue's game, you're going to lose. Misfits need to play their game.
Absolutely do, and you can see already that they're painfully aware of it as they ban away the Azir, limiting the scaling options for Rogue. No slow and steady this time around. Misfits potentially looking to draft something a bit faster. The Aphelios will now follow, and it looks like predictions right on track. Misfits Gaming seem to have the same read that you do, Frosco.
And you would expect, there we go, that the Kalista ban will come through, because that's what those two bans are setting up for. The Azir and the Aphelios is setting up for a Kalista priority pick. Now that Kalista has been pinched by Rogue, suddenly the priority shifts to a Volibear. We'll see if that one slips through the draft phase, and if it's not Volibear, then the Orianna is cropping up, and that's kind of the order of priority here.
And you have to think the pressure on Misfits, while it might feel high after a difficult previous week, it's actually not too bad because all of the lower teams in the standings today have beaten the teams above them. Not only are they the lower team heading into this one, but it also means that the race, while still neck and neck, no one is pulling very far ahead in the race for playoffs right now. It's still an absolute mess in the middle, so Misfits aren't in a do-or-die scenario.
Yeah, no one except for Rogue and Mad Lions who have created a significant gap. There's the two champions that we were talking about, the Volibear and the Orianna. It does mean that Syndra's kind of next in line. Still technically a flex pick. We know that she can be flexed between both Febiven and Kabe. I will take a page out of some of the other pro teams that I've talked to, though, that usually when a Syndra is picked, because there's not as many viable AD mid laners, Syndra is usually going into the mid lane because you don't want to have an AP mid laner, an AP AD carry, and then try to find a carry jungler to mix your damage portfolio.
Well, and especially if you're playing against Finn, a man who's known for weak side top laners, could pick up an Ornn, could pick up a tank, and if he just gets to itemize pure MR, you're never going to kill that man. But interestingly, the Syndra was prioritized over the TF. Now, the Syndra has kind of fallen away since patch 10.14, and TF has actually been the priority ban for so many teams.
And I think this just tells what Misfits want to do. If that Syndra really is going in Febiven's hands, then you're expecting to see something like a Lee Sin from Razork, some sort of really powerful 2v2 jungle mid combo. Lee Sin and Syndra can walk wherever they want, just instantly blow you up, whereas Senna and Twisted Fate, already two global ultimates. We are not playing this lane phase. We are exiting, we are going somewhere else on the map, and I would expect that maybe that's topside, maybe that's playing around Inspired in the jungle.
And I like that you bring that up, because that was the question for me. Who are they going to play around? You've got bot, you've got mid set up to support somebody else. Is it Inspired? Is it Finn? Now, Finn has been, as mentioned before, kind of the weak side top laner. We'll see if he gets a carry or if it is Inspired on something potentially like the Kha'Zix. For now, though, Misfits Gaming balancing out the Syndra with some stability of their own. They've got the Ashe pick. You talked about how reliable her damage output is earlier today, Frosker, and now the GP as well.
Don't worry, guys. We'll cover it in game as well. I'm double dipping on content. I do also like the pivot. Ashe is just a really strong AD carry right now, especially because all the AD carries have been pinched around her, but then also using her in tandem with a Gangplank. You see a Twisted Fate, you see a Senna, you know that there's already a lot of global presence now in Abyssal Voyage, kind of sprinkled on top with Vander's pick there, and you say, okay, if Rogue are zooming around the map, I need to also make an impact, so I grab something like the Enchanted Crystal Arrow and the Cannon Barrage.
And what I love about this is we're like, all right, this game's going to happen fast. So what do both teams do? They grab as many globals as humanly possible, and they say, we don't know where it's going to happen, but when it does happen, we're going to be ready. The GP, the Ashe, the Tahm Kench, the Senna, the TF, the Braum now banned away, the Ornn as well, limiting some of what Finn could potentially bring to the table, but I'm ready for an all-out brawl in just about any lane across the map.
I am kind of expecting, though, some of this jungle pool to be pinched. We talk about how Razork's probably going to go for a really powerful dueling jungler to make use of that Syndra power. And Rogue have kind of let it slide by. Surprised to see something like a Braum taken away.
We now have to see if the final ban is going to be once again targeted to support pool. Thresh making it very far into pick ban. This is, of course, kind of the only perceived S-tier support right now in the meta, but still neither team looking to prioritize it. It was the Tahm Kench instead, and Misfits Gaming can ban away another blind pickable top laner, although with Ornn taken and GP picked up by Misfits themselves, maybe they have a bit more freedom to ban something in the jungle, a Kha'Zix potentially.
One of the hard things that Rogue's composition has is hard engage, so I like to see the Ornn. There's the Kha'Zix that you were talking about. Making sure that Razork gets a comfortable matchup here. We'll have to blind pick something. It's probably going to be the jungle matchup, and Olaf's inspired. Yeah,
Olaf's
same difference.
There you go. And is there an iconic duo more iconic than Polish junglers and Olaf? I don't think so. Not in the history of European League of Legends, at least. And now we get to see what Inspired can do on this champion. A bit of pressure on him, though. This is not a scaling jungle threat. This is absolute early game dominance coming in from the Olaf, paired with some semi-global support.
And what Olaf's exceptionally good at is rolling Drakes or stacking Drakes for a very early soul contest or a very early Elder Secure. Olaf at level 4 will often go to try to solo the Drake out. When he has something like a Twisted Fate, that can be even easier because he can hunt before he can do it, or Twisted Fate can help control the area, especially with the Destiny in the river. So that's what I'm looking at for Inspired here.
But now we have the Trundle as well as the Bard locked in. Trundle opting for something safe, something reliable for Razork, will set up well with the Syndra stun, can do damage, but of course also just denies any tank pick on the top side of the map for Finn. But Finn, taking a page out of Bwipo's book, will bust out the Cho'Gath. We've seen what it can do in the late game, however early game we know the champion can suffer.
I feel like Rogue's composition is slightly disjointed, though, in kind of all of the things that it wants to do. I think they needed a tank, and they're like, I guess Cho'Gath works here. Like, Senna, Tahm Kench, and Cho, it's really hard to run into that composition. They're very good at being anti-dive, but Twisted Fate and Olaf are very good at running forward. So this is a little bit strange for Rogue to execute on, and I think that they were just looking for individual pieces rather than collective team synergy. On the other side, Misfits Gaming, I think that composition makes a lot more sense. It's all about going forward and blowing things up.
When we just look at the setup that they had, they've got the Bard ultimate, they've got the long-range Syndra stun, the long-range Ashe, the Pillar to make fights easier, the GP ultimate to make Senna's life very difficult. So just have to see how the early game execution is going to come through for both sides, because at the end of the day, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath in the late game. It's time for Misfits versus Rogue. Here we go, on to the Rift. Rogue setting up on the top side, potentially ready to make a level 1 play of their own here. This is the Fnatic special from the Young Buck era. You walk along, there's a very thin corridor of vision. If we could see Misfits vision right now, observers, thank you. Obviously no one's spotted right now, but now Finn has...
He's bait. That's bait. That is bait.
He's like a little tadpole right now. He's so tiny, Misfits. Don't you just want to hit him? They won't take the bait.
Dan can smell it. He's like, No Cho'Gath walks at a gangplank. I'm like one of the most powerful level 1 champions. What are you doing?
Did he not see my sword is on fire and my passive is ludicrously powerful? Wow.
Speaking of ludicrously powerful passives,
Ooh.
Nice segue. Observers, bot lane. Look at Ashe and all of her glory.
For the record, I think we share a feed with all the regional broadcasts. So the Spanish broadcast is like, why the hell are we just going bot lane right now? Like,
okay. Okay, so the thing about Ashe is once she gets access to her Frost Shot, her ability to do just ridiculously powerful autos, because she doesn't have crit chance. This is what I covered at top of day if you want the true breakdown. She gets 110% bonus AD on top of her auto attack, so she has, I think, 61 base AD is her level 1, and then I think it goes up to about like 67, something like
basically,
that.
you get 10% bonus damage on anyone who's already been hit by your autos once.
Yeah, and then she gets, her crit chance is also a modifier instead of doubling her damage. So if she did have 25% crit chance right now, her auto attacks would then do something like 90 damage. And how this all breaks down is people don't usually think about Ashe as like a powerful early game champion. Like, we recognize that she can push a lot, that volley's super obnoxious, but her autos just do more damage than you. It's just unfair. And she also has a really high base auto, usually higher than majority of the other ADCs. So Ashe is a really oppressive lane bully, not just because of volley, but when she does punch you in the face, it hurts more. And then you add this little thing on top of it. If you have any competent jungler and you give a hawk shot, it's just broken. It's a broken ability.
And I love this too because one of the most important players on a team for Rogue is Inspired in the jungle. This is a man that gets everything done in the early game. He is usually the guy that dictates the pace. We use that phrase a lot. But especially so in an Olaf game, because anytime you play Olaf, you put yourself on a clock. It's called get fed or become useless and walk into the Ashe as she one-shots you with 3 or 4 items. Like, that's really the story of Olaf. And obviously, insane clear speed, incredibly powerful, essentially cannot be outdueled by any champion in the game. That said, yeah, once we get to the point where everyone does damage and not just Olaf, he becomes pretty useless.
And Trundle also is a champion. I'll hold it.
Good setup.
Give him the nom.
Gold card's going to come in, but it's going to be too little too late. He can flash out of this one, of course. Ooh, Nimbus Cloak not going to be enough. First Blood coming in for Misfits, and excellent start for this team.
Yeah, Larssen held his flash, I think, a little bit too long there, but really well played from Razork and Febiven. That's the Misfits that we like to see. We talk about it all the time. Just bring back Razork camping Febiven's lane. I was just about to say the Pillar does a wonderful job in setting up level 2 ganks and early ganks in general, especially in tandem with Scatter the Weak. As a counter answer,
Daniel will get forced back. They're going to get a flash on the top side. So positive overall, but not nearly as good as what Misfits were able to grab.
And then also, as this game goes later and later, the map starts to open up. We talked about Inspired's Olaf. Thank you, Observers, for showcasing that ward that will catch him when he goes to go for his romp. If Inspired's Olaf does get fed, and he does try to run down Kobbe on this Ashe, you know, a Trundle Pillar goes up in between a fight, and then suddenly that Olaf is very far removed from the rest of his team being able to actually follow up there. Like, yeah, they have good reach and line damage with something like a Senna ultimate. Maybe they also throw a Destiny back there. But again, Rogue's composition is a little bit disjointed in kind of what all of the champions want to do together.
Yeah, and also it just feels so well answered by Misfits' composition, and also how Misfits have played this early game. Because we remember, we said the way that teams have beaten Rogue, specifically, is playing fast, kind of punishing them for wanting to play a slower, more scaling style. In the case of Mad Lions, Rogue did try to fight fire with that Echo and of course the Alawi on the top side, but here we're seeing Misfits already picking up the pace, already capitalizing on some of the weaknesses that Rogue have shown in the past. So for Rogue, kind of stemming the bleeding, because right now it's not that scary. That Syndra has 1 kill. If that Syndra gets 2 or 3, that TF never gets to play League of Legends again.
You can already tell that he's very afraid, playing super cautious because he doesn't have access to that flash. So if Larssen ever loses control of this wave and it gets pulled away from him, he's going to be in pretty big yikes territory. But you can already see Febiven and Razork are really starting to abuse this Syndra Trundle duo, moving into Inspired jungle, constantly throwing down vision to keep track of this Olaf, to slow down that clock that you were talking about, Daniel. I've never called you Daniel. That felt weird coming out of my mouth.
Really felt weird.
Sorry. I'm really sorry, guys.
Everyone is fine. Strakos and Frost, there's no other names. So it's good that we talk about mid lane Frostgrim, because you heard it from the desk, we can highlight it again here. Larssen statistically is the best. Never mind, my timing's terrible. Inspired's now in trouble. He gets stunned to the wall. Vander's here to save the day, but sadly that's a bar with Exhaust running him down. It's going to be a quick flash over the wall. from Olaf as he zooms out to safety. Febiven going to try to finish the kill on the Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench very low, and Hansama now caught in we like to call Ash Prison. Slowly but surely, he will die if he is left alone for a long enough time. Das now on the way in as well. He's going to hit him with the Meep Zap. The flash forward. That's some clean Bard mechanics right there. Flashing over the skill shot, grabbing another kill, and Rogue are getting dunked in this early game.
Don't think it had anything to do with Bard mechanics, but just general mechanics very on point there from DOS.
Flashing over a skill shot to Q.
Okay.
Could happen on any champion, you're right. Okay, it wasn't Bard specific, I just love Bard. Medic got his Rakan game, I get my Bard game, we all get our special one.
It's fine, and you did pick poor timing. So Inspired had his Raptor, I'm sorry. Inspired had his Raptors taken away, so Inspired is like, I've got it, I'll pull it Vander, I'll go into contest the Raptors. And this is the thing, Rogue are just a really telegraphed team. They love fighting for Scuttle, they love fighting for Krugs, for Raptors, things like this. And Razork and DOS get first movement. The wave is pushing in bot side. Kobbe was left alone to get solo EXP on the Ashe. That's something typically that happens because that level 6 on Ashe means a lot. And there's your sweet Bard mechanics.
Never mind, I thought he Q-flashed, which would be a Bard.
No, he flashed.
He flashed and then Q'd. He didn't even Q-flash. All right,
you're
right.
Nice.
It was good, but it was not Bard related at all. Any champion could have done, with range, could have done the same thing. Okay. All right, well, I was going to talk about mid lane. And I was going to tell you about how good Larssen is, because Larssen is really good. And the opposite side of the coin here is that while Larssen and Humanoid have been looking so incredibly good, guys like Nukeduck and guys like Febiven haven't been necessarily having the greatest split. Now, I was ready to talk to you about how Febiven, you know, came back to EU and he hasn't had the same level that he did back in the day. That said, it's no longer the right game to talk about that, because right now, Febiven's got 1 kill. He's set up for success, and him and Razork are playing very well together.
I do respect that you committed to the graphic, however.
Well, we got it. Might as well use it. Wouldn't want to waste the time of our wonderful stats and graphics.
Yeah. Now, that said, I don't necessarily think that Febiven's going to get another opportunity to solo kill Larssen, or excuse me, 2v1 kill Larssen in his lane with the help of Razork, because Larssen now has access to Destiny. He also has the heal, so it should help him a little bit through that burst damage, of course running the Spellbook on the Twisted Fate because of his matchup. And I think he's really about getting out to one of these side lanes or teaming up with his jungler, as there's Ash Prison again.
There's the snare. We got Arrow being held on to. Do not want to use it, of course, while the Devour is available.
I just think that if that Tongue Lash hadn't tapped Ash, Kobbe was getting the kill right there. He was committing.
Yeah, the easy walk down here, of course, is the thing. Once you start to fall behind against an Ashe early on, you really have no way to fight. And for a lot of champions, the option is, can you all in her? But it's Senna. She can't. So she's essentially, as long as she's behind an itemization, is just going to get run down for the rest of this game.
Just about surviving. The other nice thing about Ashe is because her basic autos do so much more damage even before crit, or anyone has itemized into crit, it also means that she gets so much out of attack speed when she procs her Q. You can get more of those flurries of arrows off. I believe on Bork and Hurricane, you can get about 7 autos off in a 4-second window. So going for the attack speed boots first. The fact that she can just back, grab long swords, have the boots. She never has a bad back at all. Ashe is just great. Great champion.
Okay, well, Olaf looks like he's going to be running in here to pick up a kill. Inspired on the way in. Destiny already used, but not to much effect. Big Senna ult coming over the top just to make sure Hansama grabs something. So good that Rogue are able to grab the kill there.
And this is actually a really good example of Rogue's playstyle, because the Des talked about it a lot, but didn't really go into specifics. And I view Rogue's playstyle really centered around Inspired. You know, if I think about kind of the difference between Mad Lions and Rogue, for me, a key difference is in their junglers and how they use them. Shadow is really about helping out his laners really dominate, whereas Rogue are about the laners helping Inspired dominate, especially when he's on a pick like Olaf.
And I'm not sure the specific mechanics there, but perhaps if Bard had ulted a little bit sooner so that he hit Olaf before he was done coming out of the portal, he wouldn't have had a chance to immediately ult, but I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that one later. It's a niche circumstance where Bard is instantly miserable, because normally anyone who comes from a portal instantly gets stunned, and that's why no one follows you through. But Olaf, of course, just gets to ignore you.
I mean, Olaf theoretically ruins Bard and Ashe's day.
Yeah. And that's why our good friend Trundle is here, to make sure that there's just a pillar between him and his dreams. The Frostgarden, 10 minutes in. Misfits off to a pretty okay start. Overall, it's a surprisingly close game, because given how much Misfits came out swinging, how strong Kobbe and DOS look to be in this 2v2 matchup, you'd expect them to have a bit of a bigger gold lead, but it's really only about 300, 400 right now, and the Cloud Drake.
And I know we're still being quite soft, especially because Misfits have been known to throw leads before, but I actually think losing that initial Drake is a really big wound to Rogue.
Okay, Arrow's
just gonna walk out of it.
Wide.
because Rogue's composition really relied on stacking these drakes and snowballing a bit more effectively, because I do think that Misfits have better scaling on their end in terms of how their composition is working together.
And now we see a bit more gold funnel in the mid lane. Of course, that's going to more than add to the gold difference. But still, honestly, Rogue going toe-to-toe. We've got 2 objectives taken for Rogue, and outside of the permanent cloud buff, it's only a 300 advantage for right now. And the gold is mostly coming through in jungle difference here, just in terms of raw CS numbers. Inspired really making sure to stay even, as well as the 400 gold lead for Cinder, really the only notable one. Impressive that Hans Sama is actually staying so far ahead in a matchup that looked to be very positive for Kobbe.
So something that Inspired was maybe tiptoeing around, especially as they were looking to pull Larssen down through the river, is the dive potential of an Olaf, especially at this extent, or at this state of the game, when you also then have a Tahm Kench and a Senna on top of it, is exceptionally powerful. I don't know if we're going to get to see it as this game is going to go later and, you know, diving doesn't really become a thing at a certain point, but I would actually really love to see how tanky and how brutal Olaf can be on like a drive-by, as like a Senna shield comes on and just get the heal, get the Tahm Kench, reset tower aggro. It'd just be cool.
And as we approach the mid-game too, and when this graphic drops, you can see as well, now that Finn has completed that first item with Glacial as well, the I'm Olaf and I get to run you down dream is very much alive and well. Because we've got 2 champions with Glacial Augment, and it's not a lot that I look at a comp and call it an Olaf comp, but Inspire's going to have a good time in this game. He is going to be sped up, he is going to be healed, he is going to have a Cho'Gath sending out some spooky ghosts at some point.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Rogue's comp, if they do ever get a hold of you, it is really hard to get away from them. But I still think that they really excel actually when you're diving back into them, and then they kind of get to slowly advance onto you. So Inspired definitely needs to kind of take his time and really pick his moment when he tries to take abuse of the Glacial Augment on Cho and Senna.
Vander, though, potentially caught out here.
Ooh, that is
anti-synergy, but Das gets a clean follow-up. The cleanse going to be used there from the Summoner's Spellbook. Vander, of course, still has the exhaust as well. Das going to zoom his way out and say goodbye to his 80 carry. Wow.
What I don't understand is that they're both Danish. Like, there was no language barrier there.
All right, not the best moment of coordination. We've seen a few of them today. Yeah, wow, I feel personally really bad for Kobbe because he probably could have taken the same portal, no? Dies with flash up, so I guess did not want to burn it, felt like he was consigned to death there, so we'll back off and... Okay, Gold's... Forget it, I said it was going to be fast, it was going to be back and forth. Well, it is fast, and it certainly is back and forth so far in the game, but it is definitely not favoring either team greatly, as they're just trading blow for blow.
Yeah, just a bit of comm issues here.
No, here's the problem. Someone that wasn't in bot lane shouted alt, 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 and they both went, yeah! That's the only way that makes sense. Otherwise, the phrase I alt is very important here.
Yeah, and then good teleport from Finn, Destiny from Larssen just to follow it up, and Finn's like, nom, 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 nom.
Grab a stack, why not? Oh, Frosco. This is going to be a weird game. I feel it already, because you're right that, like, Rogue's comp kind of wants to kite back, but also Misfits comp kind of wants to kite back with, like, an Ashe GP, so we're just going to see who gets the better setup, I suppose. And
I just think that Misfits' composition is better in terms of, like, its zone control and slowly walking forward, as long as Ashe can have kill pressure.
That's a very fast Olaf, and more than enough damage to finish that one off, as Larssen's going to flash in for the gold card just to finish the deal here, and Rogue making great use of their semi-globals.
And now they get to bully off of the bot lane tower. So it's not just about these continuous pickups in jungle that Inspired is finding with Vander, but it's then zoning Kobbe away from his tower and allowing Hans Sama to continuously whittle this one down and deny farm from this Ashe. Starting to open up pretty severely too. That's about a 20 CS discrepancy in favor for Hans Sama. Of course, a minion wave about to feed into Kobbe.
And I think the thing that we talked about it with Ashe earlier, that when she's kind of winning, she's going to keep chasing you down, and that's just going to be kind of the way that it is. But Glacial Augment Senna is very similar. So if either one of these 80 carries is ever at too great of a deficit, they really just get absolutely blasted by the 80 carry on the opposite side.
Which is why I think it's kind of interesting for Misfits. It is about, do they have kill pressure on the front line, and can they slowly walk down a team fight, get through this Cho'Gath, survive the onslaught of the Olaf, and then just try to pierce into this Senna Tahm Kench? And if the answer is yes, then I think that Misfits can execute in these team fights. If the answer is no, then I think that Rogue will just slowly kind of heal through everything, not be under much pressure, and slowly walk Misfits down. But either way, I don't expect this game to be the kind of like big, fast, big blow-ups because no one has really gotten the snowball necessary to just instantly delete someone, not even Syndra.
Yeah, and despite that, we saw the gold graph just moments ago, and we get a chance to see it again as well. But Febiven and Dandan are at the top of the gold. Misfits have all this money in their solo lanes, but what we've also seen is, well, as I say, that Larssen ticks just above Febiven. Never mind. It was a great gold graph 30 seconds ago, and now it's ruined my entire point. Caster Curse. Everybody's neck and neck. I'm so unlucky with graphics.
You're not having a good
I'm getting absolutely blasted in graphics. I want to talk about Larssen. Dies for first blood. I want to talk about how Misfits have all their gold funneled in their solo lanes. Rogue catch up in the 30 seconds it takes me to prep that point.
You're like the G2 fanatic of graphics right now.
No, don't do it. Hakuna Matata, Frost. Hakuna Matata.
Okay, let's talk about Rogue. Rogue want to really break this mid lane tower, so now that they've unlocked Senna and Tahm Kench, I suspect we're going to have a reset, then some warding along the flanks, and we're going to be pinging between mid lane tower and this incoming dragon. That's going to be the play, but here's the counterplay from Misfits. They know where Rogue want to be, and so they are looking for a pick. Watch the arrow or watch the Bard ultimate.
Setups here. Rogue waiting in the darkness. They're going to have good damage, but they have to be careful here. They need to back out immediately. Kaveh not going to be quick on the trigger finger, though. Just going to watch Rogue back away. Neither one wants to engage first, as we've got Cho'Gath pathing down. Dandan still alone on the top side. Has TP advantage, but will take him a long time to get to the fight.
Yeah, first rotation from Finn here, which means that Rogue, because they are playing TP down, are on more pressure to start up this Drake. Here comes Dandan.
Of course, they got the hose coming in for Cho'Gath, put off for the slow, try to catch them in this pinch. Good damage from Hans Sama. Running really far forward, knows that as long as he's in the Curse of the Black Mist, Syndra can't just right-click him, but that's an excellent Bard ult. Sadly, too little too late here. Devour comes in, ulti gonna come out as well, and Rogue just walk in, grab a Drake, walk out scot-free.
Really interesting that Misfits held their cooldowns for so long and decided to just show some patience there. Normally we see Misfits like really funnel into that one, but they still have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, as well as the Syndra ultimate.
And you have to wonder if after the last play went awry, that they're maybe a little bit more hesitant on kicking these fights off.
I think it was also kind of saying that it's fine to give up the Drake because they're playing for the tower, and then what will happen after this tower.
But also, can we talk about how Hansama is a man playing without fear? He's just walking face first into every single champion that walks in front of him. We got Finn coming down on the bottom side. The knockup here could be huge. It's going to be double Glacial Augment procs, though, as Dandan's grabbing a tower in the top side. So 2 towers lost for Rogue in that exchange.
Yeah, and I think this is actually where I want to kind of pivot and say I really like that call from Misfits. I'm not sure entirely what's happening in their comms, but I feel pretty safe to say that it's fine. Give away the Ocean. It's not third Drake. It's just the second one because they got the first Air Drake and instead played for the Herald on mid lane as well as the free time for Dandan up in that top lane. So kind of like connecting that Drake play to the mid play to the top play, I say that's a win for Misfits overall.
Well, and especially when you talk about how important it was for a composition with so many semi-globals on the side of Rogue to break open mid lane, to start to lay down that vision line, to look for those picks. That option is now limited and is significantly more effective on the side of Misfits, who, with the Syndra that now has 2 items completed, are absolutely no slouches at finding picks. Yes, they have to be in the right spot. They can't just teleport there, but if you walk into that brush with Syndra waiting in the darkness where you do not have vision, she will just one-shot you.
She's not going to get much more powerful at this point in the game, however. So Syndra's kind of like, she's peak powerfulness right now, has level 12, so obviously 2 points into the ultimate. Passive's going to be doing a ton of damage as well. 2 completed items. I know, guys, it's a Morello's.
It's fine.
It's a Cho'Gath.
There's healing reduction for Senna. Makes a lot of sense. Cho'Gath as well, and now we got the whole team kicking things off. Once again, Dot's going to take the portal out to safety. But, oh, there it is. As promised, Febiven hiding in a brush in the darkness, waiting for his opportunity to one-shot someone. He will not get it here in the mid lane, as TF has already been kicked out into the side lane on the top side of the map. And this is one thing I love about Rogue's composition, Frostgarn, is how they can be pretty flexible with lane assignments.
Because they can be anywhere at any time. Yeah. I was just about to compliment, you know, the graphics haven't been your thing, but the prediction rate, Mr. Tracos.
We're getting it. I predict there will be a rapid fire cannon next for Twisted Fate. Mostly because that's the only thing that item builds into, and if you build static ship, I mean, come on, it's not a G2 game.
For that long range card, just whoosha.
The perfect pick, the perfect setup.
There was an arm motion that went with that sound effect.
Yeah, we forget we're not on camera, so there's oftentimes dramatic pantomimes of things that we're talking about that you're going to miss out on at home.
Tonight, though, do not miss out on PGF.
With Odoamne, the next steps for Schalke No Fear. They've proven they can beat the former best teams, now middle of the pack teams. Can they beat the former middle of the pack teams, now top of the table teams? That's the question we're going to have to get an answer to. But as you said, Crossbaron, strongest point for the Syndra, level 13. Haven't seen much from Febiven, and it feels like that's credit to Rogue for not letting him get the setup.
Also, the fact that Rogue are playing quite cautiously, mostly just for their lanes and their gold. We talked about kind of what next steps for Rogue are going to be at this game state. It's now advancing deeper vision, looking for picks like this potentially.
Oh, Naka's going to go wide here. Vander on the way in just in case Finn needs to get bailed out, but they will back off.
And trying to break this mid lane tower, which means they need to get access behind the tower to threaten Misfits off of it so they can safely walk up and get some chip damage down. Now, a Rogue will have to do this a couple of times before the mid tower falls, which then creates space, time, and opportunity for Misfits to figure out how they want to counter this, usually for looking for either a hard engage with a Bard ultimate or an arrow, or a very deep flank.
And of course, when you look at the Misfits composition in terms of effective range, Ashe obviously very comfortable early on, but with Senna slowly stacking souls with TF on the way to the rapid-fire cannon, they are quite comfortably just backing away. Kind of without taking any sort of damage, just able to poke, just able to harass, without Misfits really being able to fully commit for an engage. Scout of the Week, of course, the exception to that. Huge long-range engage tool, the Pillar as well, but Misfits really have to pick their moment.
That was not it.
God. Hans Sama's movement is so dirty this game. Never mind, he can't dodge at all. Gold card now coming in. Dandan's going to be in trouble. Cannon Barrage now coming down. They managed to pick off Tahm Kench on the side. That's big. Now all the carries are that much more vulnerable, and suddenly Misfits set up to take this third Drake. Could also start to walk towards the Baron if they're feeling very greedy.
And this is the thing about Rogue. You know, when people call them a formula team, a textbook team, you keep hearing the other pro teams talking about it. They walk into the mid lane because they're like, okay, mid lane tower is the next one that needs to go down. We're fighting soon for a Drake, so we need to have mid lane priority. Like, you understand, but that means that if we could see it, Misfits can see it. And they have all of the tools on the composition that we talked about to try to punish that. Yeah, the Bard ultimate didn't hit, but the arrow did. And then the damage followed through. And we talked about the Drakes, how it was actually so devastating that Misfits got the first Drake, because I feel like Rogue's composition really needed to stack early Drakes, because they do get outscaled, in my opinion, on that Twisted Fate and on this Olaf. And now they lose another Drake, and that adds another 5-minute timer to the fact that you're not playing for Soul, that Misfits continue to get to scale up.
Yeah, and of course, Hans Sama's movement this game has been incredible, dodging so many skill shots, walking so far forward, knowing that Vander could be there to save him. But this time, Vander hesitates, thinks that Hans Sama's going to be out of this one, but boom, clean arrow, combine it with the keg, massive damage onto Hans Sama, and they're able to grab him too.
I'm actually going to say that while I understand what you're saying, like him dodging, stepping forward on the ult, the fact that he put himself between the turret and the wall, you force yourself in a tiny little corridor.
Yeah, which is surprising after how good it had been up into that game. But the good news, if you're a Misfits fan, is that you're finally getting the full power of the Bard ult plus Ashe arrow together. You saw the first fumble, you saw the hesitance around the Dragon Pit, and now finally you see both used in tandem to make sure that Hans Sama does not really get to play in one of those exchanges.
So now, let's look at Misfits' perspective, because it does feel that at this point that they're in control, that they can start, again, using the Syndra, moving her around with her jungler and her Bard to help them acquire deep vision, and then hopefully with that deep vision, get information to punish with the Bard ultimate or that Ashe arrow, and that's what you're looking for from Misfits. On the other side, though, Rogue are kind of like sprinting to all of these lanes, hard shoving waves, and then kind of grouping back up and trying to get Misfits to be desynced on where they're grouped up on the map, trying to get them to respond to waves and then run around, try to also find a pick.
And just outmaneuver. And as mentioned many times already this cast, it's just what their comp is set up to do. They have so much global pressure. Frostgrunner, when we started talking about this draft, we were like, all right, here's the proven way to beat Rogue, and that was play fast. Now, it's 25 minutes and there's 6 kills, so I think we could safely say that this has not been the fastest game, although there has been a decent amount of action, but it still feels like Misfits are fighting pretty well against everything that Rogue is trying to do.
I mean, Misfits are definitely hunting for plays. It hasn't always come to fruition based on execution. Now, here's my question. How brave will Misfits be in setting up this Baron? Because a lot of the times when Misfits do fall down, it's because they're not bold enough to make a very strong Baron call. Look at Finn on show. Again, Rogue's primary goal is find a fight, translate into Baron, or push down this mid lane tower.
In the meantime, while Rogue are picking for these fights, aiming to find something, Misfits are kind of just holding on, letting Gangplank farm in the side lane. Of course, 2.5 items coming in for Dandan. Swifty's coming out as well, as he just wants to be able to run down that Cho'Gath with Glacial Augment, the Senna 2. But now we have the rapid fire cannon completed for Larssen, and while it won't be a big tick in damage for the TF, it means the range at which he can find these picks is even greater. And if you're Misfits, you're going to be very uncomfortable walking around through that fog of war.
And maybe this is kind of the difference that Rogue need in this game. Maybe they feel that team fights aren't going their way right now, so they can play Larssen out into a side lane. You already talked about it multiple times, how they are, you know, kind of outmaneuvering Misfits or wasting a lot of Misfits' time as Misfits run around to catch the waves that they're pushing in instead of, I think, preferably grouping and at least trying to use this Baron as a big pressure point. You know, where's our Syndra sitting in a bush waiting for Rogue to approach the Baron pit and then blowing someone up?
Yeah, and of course, curious to see, checking in on an update for soul stacks on Senna as well, because we talked about smooth itemization curve being really strong for Ashe, but of course at a certain point with enough souls and with an IE, Senna will just outscale in terms of raw crit chance. She's eventually just going to get 100%. Now currently she's at 49 souls, so not big. She's only hit 2 of those major points, on her way to 60, but something to keep our eye on is that if we're going to play a slow, steady game, eventually the smooth curve for Ashe will be outvalued by the fact that Senna just has very strong scaling.
And then it's about who kind of has the better utility, you know, the obnoxious Senna or the slows that an Ashe can bring. Ashe, of course, also then going for Hurricane, or Bork, Hurricane, and now looking for the Death Stance. This is a pretty common build path in the LPL. Of course, you could also go for the Infinity Edge on third item, depending on kind of what you wanted to bring to the table.
And I think it's good that you pointed out, too, because they don't really need more damage. Right, overall. They have a Syndra, they have a Gangplank that's farming up really well, so just having more survivability, especially against an Olaf, is just going to be really important in the fights.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's scared of. He's scared of Inspired's Olaf right now and wants the extra lifesteal and armor to try to survive this.
Well, now we've got Larssen waiting in the darkness here. Good bit of vision coming in from that Hawk shot will let them know that Rogue are waiting there, but not really enough vision to reliably tell them much. Good ward, looks like near the back of the pit is going to be denied.
Hawk shot, maybe?
By that control ward. Just use 1 stack, might have the second, but maybe it looks like mid lane priority first. Larssen just throwing out the gold card to buy a bit of time for the rest of the team. We go for the Ghost. Gold card now coming out, has the Nimbus cloak as well as the Ghost to make sure that he is safe, but that's going to be a 3-man setup. Is the follow-up going to be there? The arrow's coming in as well, but they're just managed to hit Vander. They burned so many ultimates, so many cooldowns. They're on to Finn, but Finn's got the Gargoyle Stone Plate. The ult going to be fired across from Hansama, but there's just not a lot of damage happening right now. So many good ultimates, but no follow-up really from either side. Rogue now, though, looking for the re-engage. The gold card there. The rapid fire cannon ready to go. Inspired. And to try to finish this one out. Get for third Drake. Start to contest for soul point. Are they going to try to get anything else here? Pillar comes over. Still, Olaf will secure it. And that means the Rogue win the day in a very odd exchange of cooldowns.
I think really nice positioning from Rogue in the extended fight and how they approached the pit, particularly Finn on the Cho'Gath. It was really Finn coming around the back half of the pit from the mid lane that zoned all of Misfits off. And we talked about kind of how Rogue's comp wants you to push into them, and then they have some members who want to run forward. One of the things that Misfits comp misses is a tank, which is why DOS just gets deleted like that.
And because, of course, the pick potential here from Rogue's comp is getting pretty insane. And for Misfits Frostgarden, I just feel like the execution at this point, now that they're not super far ahead, it's quite difficult. And Rogue clearly very comfortable playing these slow, steady situations out to perfection.
And it feels like as soon as there's an open map, Misfits just kind of get scared, get lost, don't really know how they want to attack this one. And we get to this point every time, and they start to slip back.
And I was just about to talk about that, because we've seen Misfits pop off, have crazy good early games, and we've seen Misfits throw it all away in the late game, and they certainly didn't pop off, and they certainly haven't thrown it away this game, but you have to wonder, Misfits late game coordination, when is it going to get better? Because you're running out of time. Now, there's still opportunities to prove it in this game. You've got the Bard ult. If you ever pair that into a GP barrel, that's an instant win on a team fight. But that said, easier said than done.
Yeah, now it comes down to execution, and I don't know. I'm really scared right now for Misfits. I can feel it happening again.
I mean, you should be. We watched it happen twice versus Fnatic.
Because the issue is again, to actually win the team fights, especially with their target selection, they didn't just instantly blow up a Tahm Kench. That was like a Bard ultimate and an Ashe Arrow burned on the Tahm Kench. And Gangplank does a lot of damage if he gets to hit someone. But there's still a lot of zone control that it is still really scary for Dan to just like rock up. So maybe we now just trade sides where Twisted Fate is on one side, Gangplank's on the other, and we see who wins out in this 1-4 scenario.
Yeah, and then you see on the gold a very close game overall, very small differences. Hans Sama just going to zoom his way out of this one. Pillar will come in. Hans Sama goes gold, and Kobbe is there for the setup. Evander's there to deny it. Can't just beat him up, but is just going to wait for a brief moment. The stun will connect to the wall, not to Hans Sama. They're getting chipped lower and lower. Big ult, though, now the response. Das going to be in trouble here. Evander trying to find the slow. Inspired running in. Flash forward for Larssen. He manages to get the stun. The axe coming as well, but now Misfits have an excellent opportunity to turn. The arrow going to be flashed away from Hans Sama. Still has that cooldown. Incredible at this point in the game. But Kobbe starting to run down Larssen. Rogue have overstepped just a little bit, and it's going to cost them a ton here. Misfits do not have the confidence, though, to go for the re-engage here. Cooldowns burned on both sides. Neither team really has enough left in the tank to finish the fight.
I do think that initially, though, Misfits got what they came for, which was that mid lane tower. They just need to make sure now that they stagger their backs and Rogue can't get an emergency Baron by pivoting immediately with the likes of a Cho'Gath as well as an Olaf. My eyes, though, I think that this needs an Infinity Edge from the Ashe. I think she's pivoting now. You see that she had the Aegis for the Death Dance, just got the MR and the armor, and is now immediately going into the BF sword. I think he has to have the Infinity Edge because Kobbe needs damage for Misfits to close this one out and to win the team fights. Because right now, they can CC people for years, but they can't kill anyone.
Yeah, you need your balanced meal. Right now, they're all carbs. They need a little protein, they need a little veggies here. It's not working out. It's not a good time. That said, I mean, Misfits have the damage when they can get this set up, but we're still kind of waiting for everything to connect for them to just blow up a single target.
But I'm just scared that in the time that it takes Kobbe to farm up damage, that Misfits are then, you know, exposing themselves potentially to making a mistake on the map and Rogue punishing it. So for me right now, I feel like it's a race. Can Kobbe get to this item so he can have kill pressure so they can play front to back? Or will Rogue punish Misfits who normally get lost on this type of map?
Evander not gonna, no. Cut the tape. We're gonna put the Teemo screen up, take us out. All right, the re-engage is coming in now. Dan gonna try to find the stun, will not connect. Evander's just gonna spin him right back out. Misfits continue with this engage. A lot of confidence here despite missing so many cooldowns. That's gonna be a big pillar. Featherfit now coming to the side. Dan as well. Look for that barrel setup. All eyes on Dan. Does he have the damage necessary to get it done? Because Kobbe certainly doesn't. He's already dropped down. And oh, Rogue are saying you wanna walk in the face first into an Olaf? Be our guest. More than enough damage to finish this one out. In comes Larssen. Gold card goes in. That's the shutdown coming in as well. Misfits overstep, and now Dan's gonna pay the price, running for the hills as Rogue set their sights on the Baron. Frostgrunn, how does it happen every time?
Okay, I figured it out. Misfits, they can't help themselves. They see a team fight, they're like, we must finish this. Not only will we start it, we will finish it. Look at the minions. The minions were shoved up in the mid lane. They chased Rogue off. You could have just walked mid, got a couple hits on the tower, and walked away from it. Instead, they're like, composition that excels when we dive into it. I know what we'll do. We'll dive into it.
Yeah, I've got my head in my hands. Frosk is screaming. Thank you for the audible cue so the audience understands what's happening in this silent time. That's the Baron power play.
Press F in chat, guys.
Please press F to pay respect to Misfits. Remember, this is a team that if they beat Fnatic could be, 7-4 right now.
I actually went for the teleshooter because I was just about to go nuts riding on it. It's not working.
Give him a sad face, Frosco. The people have earned it. Nah, it's fine. We'll let it go. If there's another sad face play, the sad face is ready, audience. It's about time. Misfits, they're not out of it yet. This is Soul Point. It is against a Baron buffed up team. Finn has been getting stronger and stronger, and they have to play this one flawlessly. But if they can stop Soul, they buy themselves a bit of time. Ulti's going to go in, but only connecting on a Finn. That's their Q to engage on Finn. There's still a lot of healing coming in from Hans Sama. One barrel is going to connect. That's going to be a big deal. Misfits definitely in the advantage state. But Finn just walking forward, fishing for the Devour. Big shield across the entire team. But Kobbe, uncontested. Look at that Ashe damage. He's shredding through that Cho'Gath health bar. Finn now going to be in trouble, getting walked down slowly but surely. Oh, goodbye, buddy. Nice and slow. Kobbe going to finish that one up, but now they get the Ocean Drake as well. Well played, Misfits.
Thank you. That is how that's supposed to work. You cannot dive into Rogue's composition. You must just slowly walk it down, Misfits. Much better that time around.
And here we see, this is the play that made us sad in this specific instance. Pillar, arrow, scatter the weak.
The observer's showing us that the arrow was mistimed. It wasn't even a good stopwatch.
To be fair,
he stopwatched the Syndra.
Actually, I think he double stopwatched there. Would have to check again. Heard the sound twice. Could just be audio of my headphones. I think he had the room perfect timing.
Wait. Stop talking for a second. Look at mid lane. They didn't have to. They didn't have to push in like this. They definitely didn't have to Bard portal immediately into Rogue's backline. They could have completely selected a different place to fight. They could have just walked up to the minion wave that was forcing into the inhib tower. I'm not saying you get the inhib tower there, but you don't fight in the jungle like that. You don't dive into sudden death. That's like a wood chipper, and Misfits just put their face in it.
And that's the difference between these two teams, right? And I think we have to double down on this. And as Rogue know the textbook play, and they can make it, and they're consistent. They know what they need to do. But Misfits, it always feels like when it's time to put your foot on the gas, you forget everything else. Now that said, it's just about surviving here. Now they've taken away Soul Point. Both teams matched at Soul Point. This will be a 7 or 8 Drake game, depending on how long it is going to go. Misfits have decent wave clear here. It's mostly about if Dan can't hit the barrel, but Hansama's range is disgusting. Look at that piercing light. That's way too much, or rather piercing darkness. As now the tower's gone, and Misfits really do not feel comfortable to kick this one off. Hard to deal with the Tahm Kench Devour as well as the Senna E, but now they're going to get things going. Ulti going forward, Finn going to be locked up. Olaf ult used as well. Fev's been trying to find CC, but the sustained damage really isn't there unless Kobbe gets to auto-attack, and Rogue are not going to make the same mistake twice. Playing this one out nice and slow. Stun going to go in. Vander going to cleanse out. Can't save his teammates if needed. Senna still just a nightmare, but a perfect pillar to get things kicked off. Will force the Devour out of Vander. If Misfits want to go, they need to go now. That's Devour down. That's the most important cooldown. The barrel still not connecting, and Rogue walk away once again unscathed.
And I mean, everything was played really well from Rogue there. The fact that you can even see in Vander's positioning when he wanted to step forward onto Larssen, either to make it harder to click the Twisted Fate, being ready for the Devour, potentially trying to block other things that would come in. So Vander on this Tahm Kench, for me, is kind of like the core of Rogue being able to do that at all. Yeah, Hansama has incredible range at this point in the game, but Vander is on point on Tahm Kench to allow Rogue to play these fights so slowly and just basically absorb all of the hard engage that Misfits have on their comp. Think of how many times we've seen an arrow or a Bard ult hit Tahm Kench and Cho'Gath.
And the thing is those cooldowns are even more important because when you look at Curse of the Black Mist, Senna's E, you are invisible when you're not auto-attacking, which means Gangplank can't walk up and parlay you. Syndra can't walk up and ult you. So it's actually so hard for Misfits to get off any reliable poke damage. Yes, Senna can do a little bit. Yes, the Ashe can do a little bit with the volley, but the GP needs to set up the perfect damage or the barrel to get any damage down on a Hansama, and this is a man that you have to kill. He looks like he's just building lethality and a blue item, but that damage scaling on the souls is insane, and Hansama has to be dealt with.
Do you want to check in on Misfits, though, as Gangplank just beautifully demonstrated? There is a ton of damage on Dan and Kobbe. Kobbe now has the Infinity Edge complete, making his back now grabbing armor penetrations. We were talking about kind of those windows that Misfits needed. They needed to have kill pressure on the front line. They now have that if they get to hit the front line.
Well, it looks like Rogue have identified the priority target here because the exhaust is going down on Dan. He's going to set up the barrel, and instantly all of Rogue are going to back away, settling for that tier 2 tower. Of course, 1 minute and 14 seconds to Soul, so this gives access over to the entirety of the bottom side Misfits jungle to Rogue if they want to take it.
I think we're probably going to be setting up for the Baron that's spawning in 1 minute, as well as that Soul. Oh, Daniel.
Yes.
I don't know why I keep doing that.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's a weird day.
It is. Dracos.
We watched a lot of games that we predicted completely wrong, and thank God we don't do predictions anymore, because those ones, I was like, this is the easiest day of predictions of my life. I would have been 0 for 3.
It's okay.
Odoamne. The next steps for Shogun up here. So this is interesting. I think one of the things that the analyst devs brought up is kind of the concept of Rogue as the forgotten first place team. But to me, this isn't a performance that suddenly elevates them to that Mad Lions explosive, crazy style level. It does, however, show Rogue's really biggest strength, I think, which is incredible consistency.
I think the word endurance, patience, the mental fortitude required to try to grind down a Rogue or an Origin, they must just be one of the most frustrating teams to play against.
Absolutely. Larssen continues to step forward here. Has no fear of the pillar.
Finally.
Oh, that's finally the setup. Dan in the area. He's got it, but Larssen manages to go gold and uses it himself. And now Olaf's running forward, buying a bit of space for Larssen to move. Larssen's got another gold card. He can return forward. Excellent positioning from Rogue to make it out of that one, but Misfits now running in for this Drake.
And you can see the pressure from Misfits because look at their base. The super minions are pushing into their inhib, will be hitting the Nexus towers relatively soon. But there's the Soul stolen!
He steals it! Larssen could just TP into the base at any moment and try to end the game. If they do not keep their eyes on the prize here, Misfits could throw everything away. Inspire to still alive. He's still in the back of the pit, but it looks like Rogue want to take the fight instead. They are not worried about the push. Larssen stepping forward. Hans Sama stepping forward. That's the TP from Finn. They've got their split decision. It's the double TP. Rogue want to finish it in style. Right when we asked for Roger here to deliver, you want something spicy. Rogue are more than happy to serve it up because Vander's stopping the backs. Larssen and Finn are ending the game, and that's going to be GG for Rogue.
Rogue saw the moment. They took it.
You had one shot.
One opportunity.
To double TP into the base and ending. Kind of anticlimactic given like how slow and how controlled so many of those team fights were that it just came down to two TPs into the top.
Oh, that was a weird game. That was basically played on timers every 5 minutes for the monster objectives. We walked in. Did we execute? If yes, we got to move to the next portion of the game. If no, more time passed.
Thank you to Rogue for restoring normality to the standards.
Oh, that's right.
As the team above the other team finally wins a game today. Of course, you can vote for your key player of the game at LEC on Twitter. Inspired, Larssen, Hans Sama. It's really your choice. Hans Sama would be my bet. Personally.
I mean, Inspired stole the soul. He picked up majority of those kills in the mid-game through working with Vander to invade the jungle.
That's actually true, you're right.
Yeah?
I just really hate Olaf.
I think...
Struggle, personal bias.
Hans Sama's champion, Senna, was like the most pivotal.
All right, I'm being played off. After the break, it's time for our final game of the day as Mad Lions and Fnatic hit the Rift. Now Razor going to flash forward. The RKO coming back. Reckless going to heal across the rest of the team, but Whipple's still alive. They managed to get one before the fight even goes through. Dan isolated off to the side. Cho'Gath, though, slowly getting chipped down. That's the double shockwave. Fnatic pushing forward. Fnatic, are you kidding me? They're crushing through the fight. It's all eyes on Featherton, but he's locked up. The concussive blows are too much for him to deal with.
They play their own game no matter what. So if you want to beat them, you have to play their game. If I want to shut down Mad Lions, I think a little bit more pressure on the enemy team. Make them sweat a bit more.
Dug their own grave here. Patrick on the backside. Goodbye, Patrick. One shot. Humanoid going to finish it up. Troy's got nothing left. All he is peel for Patrick. He's got no damage of his own. Shadow going to jump over the wall. Going to go for the quick kick there. Special wants to try to turn it with a Malphite Claw. Kadril buying a bit of time. Kadril just getting caught out.
I mean, I feel like Fnatic's individual players are just like sometimes underperforming. If you don't have creativity, then you won't beat us either.
A chance against me. I can calculate 90 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
and welcome back everyone to the LEC. Rogue stay at the first place here, and I have Vander with me to talk about the game. Hi Vander, thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for the invite.
Well, you're welcome. And I mean, I was on social media a few minutes ago, and I saw some tweets from your teammates, Finn and Larson, who were saying that this wasn't the most convincing game, but still a win is a win. So what's your take on that?
I think we kind of misplayed every game a little bit. So they got like they killed our TF level 3. Then we inspiredly wanted to invade their jungle, the Raptors, and he died as well, I think, or like they killed Hans. Something like this happened. So we were losing mid lane and bot lanes all of the sudden, and then they just got Herald and they could snowball the game better, I think. So we did kind of a good job to at least put some gold and XP lead into Senna. While they were like busy taking Herald and stuff like this. So I think they could play it a bit better. So I know we are like the first team, right? So people expect us to win every game convincingly, I guess. But after this early game, I'm pretty happy how we played the next minutes. I think we could maybe get the soul earlier, but yeah, the one thing didn't go our way.
We will mention a bit later the fact that you're on the top, but not maybe as dominant as you guys would be. But looking back, I mean, coming back on the game and the draft especially, I saw a lot of people commenting on your drafting choices here, wondering why you went that way. Could you comment on the draft and why did you think it was the right choice here against Misfits?
What would be the thing that people comment on, or just the draft in the general?
The draft in general.
Well, I mean, we just pick champions we think are strong. So there's like Olaf Jungle or Senna, TF, and then Tankage works pretty well with Senna. And then people try a bit of Cho'Gath into GP. So we also just tried it as well this game. We don't play it too much actually, but worked out well.
And you mentioned the Olaf, I mean, inspired. We know how good he can be with this champion here. And he got player of the game, so do you think it's deserved? And are we going to see his Olaf again?
I mean, it was between him and Hans for this game, let's be honest. Hans also played really aggressive and he did a lot of good stuff in teamfights. But, I mean, Inspired did some nice picks on Bard. He was in Doss's head. He knew where he's going to go and he just caught him a few times. And then he also stole the Ocean Drake soul. I don't think it mattered that much in the game, stealing the soul, but yeah, I guess it made us confident to just chase them and end the game, right? All
right, well, it was a good game.
But I think we would end there anyways, even if we lost the soul. But it's nice he stole it.
Indeed, indeed. And nice that you guys managed to take the edge on that and beat Misfits here. You keep the first place. There's a lot of topics I would like to mention, but we're running out of time here, unfortunately. So thank you very much, Vander, for joining me here. And I hope I'll get to talk to you tomorrow about some other stuff I had in mind. Thank you. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back for the last game of the day in a few minutes, Mad Lions against Misfits. Stay tuned.